have invented that episode, and it was supported by that lady in material particulars. So that was of great importance. It drove the prosecution at one stage solemnly to suggest that Hanratty might have been in Liverpool and that there was an air service from Liverpool to the south which was regular, and perhaps he'd come down for the occasion and then gone back to Liverpool or Rill or whatever. That seemed to us to be quite absurd.
After 21 days, it was by then the longest murder trial in British history. Mr. Justice Gorman sent out the jury. 5 hours later, the jury, still undecided, returned for guidance. Hanratty was brought up from his cell.
So that was a rather unfortunate incident, because he obviously came up having steeled himself to hear the verdict, and no verdict was available. What the jury said was, when you tell us we have to be sure, do you mean certain sure? And the judge then gave them further direction for about 20 minutes, which sounded to me a bit like, if you're asking that question, perhaps you're not certain sure.
3 hours later, the jury returned for a second time.
The jury said, can we have some supper? And the judge was furious that Hanratty there, biting his fingernails, of course, he should be subjected to that sort of delay. However, somewhat irritably, because it was a great strain on the judge too. I mean, he showed the strain. He was cross, but he ordered that sandwiches should be provided, and they were. And out went the jury again.
At 9:10 that Saturday evening, the verdict was delivered.
Nearly 10 hours after they'd first retired, and after the court had refilled 3 times, the jury filed back into the box. The clerk of the court asked the foreman for their verdict. "Guilty, my lord." Cries from the public gallery. Hanratty was asked if he had anything to say. After a false start and a long pause, he said, "I am innocent, my lord, and I shall appeal." The black cap was draped on the judge's wig. "James Hanratty, the sentence of the court is that you suffer death in the manner authorized by law, and may God have mercy on your soul."
Mum, I only wish you had been there and seen and heard the way this case was put to me. I was in the witness box 10 hours, and I had answered every question truthfully and correctly, but it was a waste of time. It's surprising what the law can do to an innocent man. They can turn him inside out in no time.
Directly after the end of the trial, 2 national newspapers reported an inexplicable earlier event. Just 1 week after the A6 killing, Janet Gregston, the dead man's widow, saw a smartly dressed man at a cleaner's in Swiss Cottage, North London. There were then no known suspects, yet she suddenly announced, "That's the man the police are looking for." Her brother-in-law, William Ewer, told how he followed the man, discovered his name, and reported him to the police. It was Hanratty. But Mrs. Gregston had no connection with Hanratty or the crime. How could she have picked him out of the millions on the London streets long before anyone else suspected him? No one has ever explained her extraordinary intuition. Then, 2 days after the appeal was turned down, Charles France, Hanratty's Soho friend who had testified against him, went to a West London bedsitter, turned on the gas, and committed suicide. As Hanratty awaited execution in Bedford Prison, another man began to live it up. The original suspect, Peter Alphon. At the heart of the mystery of Deadman's Hill is Peter Louis Alphon, the original police suspect. For 30 years, his private and public statements have haunted the case.
Now, there seem to be three different opinions of you. People think that you're either a liar, a killer, or that you're mentally disturbed and unbalanced. Which are you?
Maybe it's all three.
Throughout the A6 murder trial, the name of Peter Alphon recurred. John Justice was intrigued.
I decided halfway through the trial to have a word with the first suspect. We'll go along and see if there's anything he knows. He might be able to help or might know something. And it was rather difficult to find him.
Justice first traced Alphon to the Ariel, then a newly opened and expensive hotel by London Airport. By the end of the trial, Alphon had moved back to central London to another expensive hotel.
I got a call from the Regent Palace Hotel in Piccadilly. So I wondered why, when Hanratty was found guilty, as he moved after 3 months from the Ariel Hotel to the middle of Piccadilly Circus. And I said, "But what do you think of the verdict?" He said, "Well, it surprised me a little bit. I was at White City, I heard it, but Hanratty's expendable."
Hanratty was then awaiting execution. Justice decided to pursue the acquaintance of Peter Alphon.
And one evening, he produced the most extraordinary thing. And I looked at it, and it took ages to see it. You read it, you see quite clearly Peter MacDougall.
Alphon had checked into the hotel as Peter MacDougall.
And the other side, murderer. I was stunned.
Peter Alphon, the original suspect, appeared to be making a veiled confession to the A6 murder. What were his movements around August the 22nd, 1961? In the evening after the Morris Minor was abandoned in East London, Alphon checked into the Alexandra Court Hotel in Finsbury Park. Over the next few days, he behaved so suspiciously that the manager and other guests decided to contact the police. According to a witness statement never previously disclosed, one guest thought that Alphon must be in hiding. Police records confirm that Alphon had again used a false name, and that they planned to examine his clothing and check his movements. Within 5 days of the murder, Alphon was taken in for questioning. He said that on the evening of the murder he saw his mother and then stayed the night at the Vienna Hotel, the first mention of the Vienna in relation to the case. His story was corroborated by a hotel employee, the self-confessed liar William Nuds. But other than his mother and the Nuds evidence, nobody could confirm where Alphon spent the night of the murder. The hotel manager, Juliana Galvez, first saw him in his room the following morning, at 11:45 a.m. Alphon's mother was visited by Superintendent Acott. The new documents proved that Mrs. Alphon did not confirm the alibi. She did not know on which of 3 evenings she had seen her son. Alphon's alibi now depended on William Nuds. Nuds was taken to Scotland Yard. Now he too said he hadn't seen Alphon until the morning after the murder.